Yo, sometimes life calls for a change. Not fake, just different. It'll show you a different way. And right now, I'm on to my different way. I can promise you this is the same Spann, but the reporting is over. I'd like to welcome you to the Mr. Spann official podcast. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mr. Spann official podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Spann. This is episode number 48 of the show. And yeah, man, we are right back to it. It's been about a week since the last time I talked to y'all. As a matter, it's been exactly a week since the last time I talked to y'all. And we were going over all of the gaslighting that the media have been doing to us as far as Donald Trump and like after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump and everything else, and how that's been framing how we talk about this political climate that we're in, how we're talking about these situations, particularly right now. And so, yeah, man, we gonna be talking a little bit more about that. We gonna talk a little bit more about that because some shit happened today, man. Some shit happened today. I wanted to talk just mostly about the Republican National Convention and shit because there's some things that happened there too, and we're gonna talk a little bit about those things. But we got breaking news here, y'all. Yeah, man. So Donald Trump. This how y'all know I'm fucked up. Joe Biden. Joe Biden has decided that he's going to no longer continue his campaign for president of the United States, man. Yeah, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. And we're going to talk about that. But of course, before I do, I got to remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Mr. Spann official podcast and let your voice be heard. Go ahead and hit up our hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave us those voicemail messages. Those messages will get played here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also hit me up on Threads and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead, follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. Also, I am on Twitter. It's the same thing, Mr._Spann, but I'm barely there. So if you really want to chop it up with me, you got to come over to Threads, man. That's where I'm at. Mr._Spann. Also, go over to iTunes and or Spotify. Those and leave us a 5-star review. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get right here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who does that. Doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Mr. Spann official podcast and the Spann Report podcast network in its entirety. And also, when we finally get our website back up, you can go to www.thespannreport.com and get all of your podcast needs met. We're actually trying to make it to where because again, like with social media and everything else, we're trying to actually make it a hub where you can just like, you can just like come over there and talk your shit. Especially if it's something themed around the shows, whether it be my show, whether it be Cook's show, when we bring the sports show back with Beer and Chicken, we've got dedicated spaces over there for folks who are fans of those shows to just go over there and talk about what's going on there, as opposed to being at the behest of Twitter and Instagram and Threads and wherever else, right? So yeah, man, we're really trying to do something different with the website, and I hope you guys take advantage of it when we finally get everything back up with that, right? But yeah, man, we got some comments already here in the chat here. Let me go ahead and pull something up. My man Adam Adam says slow news day. To that I will say, man,
nigga, please.
Because it ain't nothing slow about what's going on today, man. Nothing slow about what's going on today. Man, Dwayne's in the chat, man. What's going on, brother? How you feeling, man? Hope everything's good with you and your peoples. Everything good with you and your family, man. I hope everything's good with everybody in their family, man. Real talk, but I appreciate you being in here tonight, man. Let's see. Dwayne also says, I wasn't surprised that Biden withdrew from the race, but still disappointed that those corporate Democrats pushed him out. Oh, trust me, man. We gonna talk about it tonight. We damn sure gonna talk about it tonight. And my man GS28 is in the chat room, man. What a day, what a lovely day, man. Listen here, bro. It's a lot going on, and we gonna cover some of it, right? But when I seen what happened, I was like, I'm damn sure getting on the mic tonight. Like, there's no way in hell I was not going to get on the mic tonight and talk about this, because I've been of the mindset, especially since the debate last month, that there had just been this concerted effort and the constant drumbeat in the media mostly to get Joe Biden to drop out of the race, right? And part of that comes from, there was this idea that the Democratic Party or those close to Joe Biden or those in the administration were shielding Joe Biden from the public. Like, they were talking about how few interviews he was doing, how few public appearances he was making, and the media themselves felt like they had been somehow betrayed or lied to. So and you saw it in how they covered Joe Biden over the course of the last 3 weeks, right? Like, we had been hearing things about Joe Biden. Like, that was one of the things that, like, the Trump administration had been saying for the longest, was that Joe Biden is too old, right? Like, like Joe Biden is, I mean, Trump's been calling Joe Biden Sleepy Joe since before 2020. And Joe Biden was also the person that he was the most afraid to run against, which is why he got impeached for trying to get dirt on Joe Biden, because he knew that Joe Biden was the most effective candidate against him. And so, like, this idea of Joe Biden just being too old for the office, an office that he's already in, an office that he's been operating in the last 3 years, an office where he's gotten the infrastructure bill passed, where he's gotten the CHIPS Act passed, where he's forgiven over, I don't even know exactly how much, it's in the billions of dollars now when it comes to how many student loans he's forgiven. When we think about how much manufacturing has come back to the United States, and like, low key, I know a lot of environmentalists wouldn't necessarily be happy about this, but the United States has been energy independent for quite some time. As a matter of fact, the United States is producing more oil now than it ever has in the history of the motherfucking country, man.
What in blue blazes is going on out here?
Did this nigga just say blue blazes?
It was a blue blazes thing, because, like, one of the first things that Donald Trump said when he was joking about being a dictator on day one was, yeah, I want to drill, baby, drill, and I want to shut down the border. And facts be damned, we're seeing less crossings across the border, and we're producing more oil than we ever have in the history of this nation. But they don't, like, facts don't necessarily, like, really have to be a thing over there, right? So despite all of this, and Joe Biden not only doing more and more public showings, right? Like, he was doing, he did the interview with Lester Holt. He did the right after, what was that? The NATO summit, where he did an hour. He was talking about the foreign policy and things like that. You've never seen Donald Trump be able to stand in front of a group of folks for an hour and really articulate what it means, what the foreign policy shit is for real. You've never been able to see him do that, because he doesn't have the chops to do that. And it's been even when he did that, man, like, I saw how people would just react. Oh my God, he said Vice President Trump instead of Vice President Harris. It's like, okay, the man misspoke. Right? And folks were like, just like losing their shit, as if this man wasn't capable of doing the job that he's been doing for the last 3 years. Another thing that I would say is that when we elected Joe Biden back in 2020, we also understood that Joe Biden was an old man then. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't something that, like, oh my God, did you know Joe Biden was in his late 70s? Nobody was saying that shit. We all understood that Joe Biden was an older guy, right? And some folks were, like, really holding on to this thing, right? Because there was a time where I believe Joe Biden said that he would be a transitional candidate, right? where he would, essentially run to stop Donald Trump, and then he would hand over the reins. And like, I remember when he said this. But what folks don't understand is that the calculus of a lot of things had changed. I think that Joe Biden, especially after January 6th, I think that Joe Biden and most of us thought that Donald Trump was dead politically. That after that, there was no coming back from that. Right? There's no way. Like, I mean, we already saw what he did during how he handled COVID. We already saw how he handled protesters during, the uprisings for George Floyd, and how he tried to use the military against peaceful protesters. We already saw him do that. And then we saw when he lost an election where he couldn't accept that he lost the election, and then he tried to use force to keep himself in power. And many Republicans at the time were walking away from Donald Trump, said he's politically dead, including some people like Nikki Haley, who just endorsed this motherfucker this past week at the Republican National Committee, at the convention, right? So the calculus was, hey, like, after this, Trump's dead politically, we probably could. We probably could pivot to someone else. But Trump is not dead politically. And even when they did have the primary with all those Republicans who were basically sycophants to Donald Trump to begin with, none of them were really actually forcefully talking against Donald Trump in any real meaningful way outside of Nikki Haley. But even when Nikki Haley, well, I'm sorry, not even just Nikki Haley, but Chris Christie. But again, these are people who were also helpful to Donald Trump getting to where he was in the first fucking place. So nobody believed them. Nobody believed them. Like, yo, bro, I don't believe anything. You gonna need more people, bro. We don't believe you. Right? So you got that going on. So yeah, there's that. But then there's also this idea of being a lame duck. And how effective, I always thought this, I don't know how effective a president could be if the moment he takes the oath of office, people understand he's only going to be here for this amount of time. He's a lame duck. So the Congress just waits him out. We don't have to really do anything with this guy because he's no longer going to be here. And there's a sense of that, some sort of non-compliance with the Congress now, especially with it being in Republican hands, where if there's anything that's going to be coming forward, like the Republicans aren't trying to really legislate. Right now, they're just being obstructionists because they don't want they don't want Joe Biden to have any wins. We saw that with the immigration bill, where Tom Cotton, a conservative senator, was leading that negotiation. And they got pretty much damn near everything they fucking wanted. And they still gutted it because Donald Trump called them senators and said, hey, man, we can't give this guy a win. I need to run on that issue. I need to run on that. So we can't give this guy that win. So you have to understand like what the stakes are politically, and they're like, yo, he would have been coming into like this as a lame duck, right? Coming into his presidency as a lame duck. We don't know if he would have been able to get the infrastructure bill passed had he been considered a lame duck from the very beginning. We don't know if he would have been able to get the CHIPS Act passed had he come in as a lame duck, because they would have just been like, well, fuck it then. We're going to wait him out. We're going to wait him out. And then we're going to present somebody else. Now, again, this is all predicated on the idea that Donald Trump is out of the picture. And Donald Trump has never been out of the picture in the Republican Party. So like with folks that are upset with Joe Biden for saying like, I'm the only one who can beat him. I've shown that I can beat him. I've beaten him. I think that I should be given an opportunity to beat him again. Not only that, look at my record. Not only that, look how the years of service that I put in. Like, yo, man, it's got to sting, bro, for the people with whom are supposed to be your fucking allies are out here saying, nah, man, you need to step aside, man. We need to do something different. And so, and in saying that, let's go back to this media thing, right? The media has been drumming up this idea that that Joe Biden needs to go. Look at that. I misspoke. I said Donald Trump and I meant Joe Biden. And I'm 44. So y'all gonna say I'm too old to be fucking president too, based upon how people been acting about the shit. Right? But No, so the media has been like every fucking word that that Joe Biden says. They've been like critiquing every little bitty thing he does, and then it becomes a drip, 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 to where okay, so now you've got these unnamed. First, they were unnamed Congress people. Then they were Congress people of no consequence, right? They said, "Yo, we think the dam is going to break," and there's all these people, and they were naming these people. I'm like, who the fuck is that? Who are these niggas? Matter of fact. Yeah, who are these niggas? Where? There we go.
Who are these niggas? We need to stay away from these niggas.
We need to stay away from these niggas because I didn't know who the fuck these people were. Most of it. And there was one from Michigan. I'm like, who the fuck is she? Because I never even heard of her before. She must like be in like one of the Upper Peninsula districts, or one like Northern Michigan district, or one of the Western Michigan districts. The places where like when people think of Michigan, they're not really thinking about those places. No offense. That's just me keeping it buck, right? So you had that going on. Then, there was the constant, well, we're waiting on Joe Biden to make a decision. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's like, I ain't going nowhere. I'm in the race. I'm in it to win it. What y'all want me to do? I don't know it. I ain't got the polling data to tell me I need to get out of here. Like, and he kept saying it, and they kept saying, well, who do you listen to when you're thinking about getting out of the race? Who are you listening to? You're like, motherfucker, I listen to me. Right? They kept asking this man, despite this man telling them he was in the damn race and he wanted to win and he wanted to continue on with the race. It became a thing where it was a self-fulfilling kind of prophecy sort of thing, where if the media keeps asking the question, saying, well, we're just waiting on Joe Biden to make a decision, despite the fact that Joe Biden had told y'all what the fuck his decision was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Joe Biden told y'all what he wanted to do. But y'all kept at it. And then you had all these people who were saying shit behind the scenes, but wasn't really, like, again, these inconsequential motherfuckers behind the scenes, man, talking shit on background, sowing those seeds. Then you got people like George Clooney, the donor class, people with money. And they're talking about, yeah, well, I can't get excited about Joe Biden. If Joe Biden doesn't get out of this race, man, I'm going to have to stop giving money. Monies that are damn sure needed to, if you're going to run for president, the money's a damn sure needed. But it became one of those things where, like, now there's a fight, there's a divide within the party because you got the choice of the people, and the people chose Joe Biden. And then you got the choice of the donors who are saying, well, I don't know. And I'm going to withhold my money because I don't know. Now, yeah, we could all get out here with our $10, $15, maybe $100 donations or whatever else and keep giving. And we don't know, whether or not that would make up the difference for some of these whale donators and whatever else. Don't know that. But it feels bad. It feels like a slap in the face to a lot of grassroots people. It feels like a slap in the face to the people who vote, those 14 million people who decided that they wanted Joe Biden to be the nominee in the Democratic Party throughout the primaries that had already gone on. And then there was also the discussion of, okay, so Joe Biden steps aside, but none of them were naming who they wanted to step into their place, right? And so one of the things that never made sense to me was, he's got Kamala Harris as his vice president, right? Now, typically, the way these things go, if the president is not unable to carry out his duties, the vice president steps in. Vice president is the number 2 in the party. So why then are y'all talking about Joe Biden needs to step aside, but y'all don't know who would step in and take his place? And now it becomes very apparent to a lot of people, especially someone like myself, who are like, even if y'all, like, I didn't even understand the idea, like, well, Joe Biden might not be able to carry out the term. All right, cool. So he's got a very competent Kamala Harris to step in. If something should ever happen to Joe Biden, should he become incapacitated, if he should, God forbid, die or something, we got a very capable and complimentary politician in Kamala Harris. And truthfully speaking, when we had the 2020 primaries going on, I wanted to vote for Kamala Harris then. I did. Like, Kamala Harris is my number 1 choice in that whole primary. I never got a chance to vote for her because she ended up out of the race before the Michigan primary even came about. She was already gone. But she was my number 1 choice in the 2020 election. So like I get to vote for her, and I'm excited about that. But I was already going to be voting for her already. She wasn't at the top of the ticket, but she was a part of the ticket. So she was a part of whatever was going on, which is why all this shit about Joe Biden being too old never fucking made sense to me. Right? So today I was on the phone with my wife, and I'm just like scrolling fucking YouTube, and like there it is, like Joe Biden drops out of the race, and I couldn't fucking believe it. And the reason why I couldn't believe it was because I knew and I understood, based upon like just the way I've been watching it, was that this was totally media driven. The constant leaks of, people having concerns. The constant, even with the, like when Joe Biden would tell them, no, I'm staying in, and they were like, well, we're just waiting on Joe Biden to make a decision. I was surprised by this decision. And so it's like the weird thing is, like, now that he's endorsed Kamala Harris as his heir apparent, as he should, as it should always be. But like to see so many of like people, prominent Democrats, man, like people that you just be like, man, wait, I didn't think this was how you rolled. But people like Nancy Pelosi, people like Adam Schiff, like these are people who like been real strong opponents of Donald Trump. I think Adam Schiff at one point, he was an impeachment manager or part of the impeachment process. He was on the January 6th committee. And Nancy Pelosi is a Democratic icon, right? Now and I know that like when people look at Nancy Pelosi, they like, yo, she whips up votes. She's able to keep her caucus together and things like that. She's not the speaker anymore, but like she still holds a very large influence over the party. Hakeem Jeffries just the day before was saying how much he was behind Joe Biden. So for like, you go from that swing to Joe Biden's out today. And yeah, man, shit, man.
Makes me sick, motherfucker, how far we done fell.
And that's not to suggest that Kamala Harris is a fall, but it like what pisses me off more than anything is that in a time where we understand the existential threat that Donald Trump represents to this nation, and what he, not only just to this nation, but especially to like minority groups, to other disenfranchised groups like the LGBTQ community, like women, we understand what that threat represents. And you would think that if people would coalesce around their leader and galvanize around their leader, if the populace saw the leadership galvanizing around the leader, they wouldn't necessarily have so many second guesses and misgivings about going ahead and voting for for Joe Biden, right? But when the public is seeing, such and such, so many senators, representatives in Congress, the House of Representatives, Congress people saying they think that Joe Biden's a step aside. And then like some of those names becoming a little bit more prominent later on. They weren't the prominent names at first, but some of the more prominent names coming up. And then it's like, well, shit, what they gonna do? Now, the other part about this is the historical aspect of it. Like, we're 3 months away from the damn, 4 months. 4 months, a little less than 4 months away from the actual election. And we are changing candidates a little less than 4 months before the election. Historically, I don't think that's ever happened. Even with the 1968 election, I don't think it was 4 months between them and between then. I know they had the broker convention in '68 that happened in Chicago, and it was a shit show in Chicago, where we ended up with fuck, I'm forgetting his name now. Oh man, I'm forgetting his name now. It wasn't Mondale. Hubert Humphrey. I think it was Humphrey. It might have been Hubert Humphrey. But we ended up with him as a nominee, and Richard Nixon becomes president. And we all know what happened with Richard Nixon. Same thing in 1980 with Jimmy Carter and, you know, the contested, nomination of him. And then we end up with Ronald Reagan. Like, this doesn't bode well for us. Now, it's cool to be online and people saying, like, I'm seeing folks getting in line already. You know, the people are excited about Kamala Harris. And I'm like, yeah, y'all damn sure well better be. But it also better result in some actual work. The work that y'all apparently weren't willing to do for Joe Biden. Right? The work y'all weren't willing to do for Joe Biden. Could have put this very same motherfucking energy into Joe Biden, but didn't. Now, folks talk about the polls and what polls were showing that people were having second guesses and not excited about. Hey, man, listen here, bro. I'm going to say this until I get blue in the fucking face. If those people were considering voting for Donald Trump or sitting at home and they understand what the stakes are, fuck them. Fuck them. That's because that is a very privileged position to be in, where you could look at these two choices and decide I don't have to choose between either of them. And if anything goes wrong between either of them, y'all can't blame me because I didn't vote for none of them. No, your non-vote was also a choice. And it was a choice for the fucking worst option. Far too many people think by not participating in the process that they don't have a role in what happens here. That's bullshit. I'm here to disabuse you of that notion. That's bullshit. Your choice to not vote is also a choice, often for the worst choice. And I say that because we understand that Republicans aren't a very popular party. I know they say they represent half of the nation. They represent half of the country. They do not. You've seen this in various different forms, man. Like, you've seen, as a matter of fact, if they were so popular, if they were so like keen on being what the nation needed and wanted, then why do they continuously try to challenge your ability to vote? Why do they continuously try to make it harder for college students to vote? Now, here's what's funny. They say, let's go to the voter ID aspect of it, right? They have, like, they talk as though everyone has access to ID and that you should have access to ID to vote. And it sounds innocuous, right? But then when you get to okay, so what's the acceptable IDs? What are the acceptable ones? And then you start getting into the minutia of that. You can have a gun card and that'd be considered acceptable, because who do they think typically has a gun card or a concealed carry license or something like that? They tend to think that those are right-winning, Republican-leaning type of folk, right? Now, as a card-carrying, concealed carry kind of guy, I'm not right-wing leaning at all, but I do exercise that Second Amendment. But if I were a college student, say for instance in Texas, if I were a college student in Texas and I just wanted to use my student ID as a form of ID in the state, and I'm registered to vote there because I live there most of the time of the year, right? I'm registered to vote there, but I can't use my college ID, which I have to prove I am who I am to say that I go to this school. But I can't use that ID in order to be able to vote. I can't show you that. Right? So it's these games that they play. They try to keep you from being able to vote. Oh, not only that. You think about how Donald Trump tried to erase votes in Michigan, in Atlanta, in Philadelphia, and in Milwaukee. And those are states that he all lost. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia. He tried to erase black votes out of the black cities that got his ass the fuck up out of the paint. They know they are not a popular party. If it was not for the Electoral College, Republicans wouldn't win the presidency ever. They're just not popular with the people. The last person to win the popular vote for Republicans was George W. Bush back in 2004. That was 20 years ago. Now, the irony of that is that, well, not even so much the irony. I think what ended up happening with that was that there was a contingent of folks who believed that because America was immersed in a war, the war on terror, that it wouldn't be a good look for us to change leaders during the war. Right? So they voted to keep the same dude in office. But keep in mind, this was a guy who was installed by the Supreme Court because they stopped the voting in Florida. Al Gore had won that popular vote. They had recounts in Florida. They stopped the vote. They stopped the recounts in Florida. They stopped counting the votes in Florida. The Supreme Court gave him the win. Even the Secretary of State in the state of Florida was a Republican appointed by George W. Bush's brother. Right? So, like, when Republicans say the shit's rigged, oh, damn show. If y'all want to talk rigged, that's some rigged shit right there. Right? But even then, you know what you did not see? What you did not see is Democrats going up to the Capitol and storming that bitch. Did not happen. Did not happen. So understand that we're in uncharted waters now. And again, as someone who wanted to vote for Kamala Harris in 2020 as at the top of the ticket, okay, so 4 years later I get to do that. But at the same time, I also understand it, like, yo, like, this is a time now where, hey, Kamala Harris is going to have, we're going to see all of the Democratic people, let's just say that, the people who claim to be our allies, we're going to start seeing how much of them really believe in voting like black women. Because they say this shit online all the time. Vote like black women. Black women always saving America. Listen to black women. Okay. If y'all really believe that, if enough of y'all really believe that, we would not have seen the campaign to not only move Joe Biden aside, but also start hearing people say, hey, we might need to have an open, like another little mini primary. When his his number two is right there. We wouldn't have been hearing that. And that's what gives me pause about this. That's what makes me, outside of the fact that this shit has never been done before, is there's this thing in some Democratic, like in the Democratic Party, there are some folks who are thinking this is a coronation, as if she wasn't his fucking vice president for the last 2 years. And as the number two, it should go to her because y'all are saying he's incapable. So it should go to his number two, as it would normally. If something was to happen to Joe Biden right now, she'd be in the office. So why would y'all ever consider calling it a coronation when it's just standard operating procedures, supposedly? That's what gives me pause about this. Right. We got a couple more comments here in the chat room here. Let me highlight my man, Dwayne. Dwayne says, I will also say that if Trump wins the presidency, I will not blame maggots. I will blame these Democrats for this. I mean, truthfully speaking, you can blame them both. You can blame them both. The reason why I say that is because, again, like, the MAGA people don't give a fuck about you either. They simply don't give a fuck about you. The Democrats in this particular situation, these are the people who claim that they do. So yeah, there's a definite sense of betrayal coming from them to me. Right. I do feel a sense of betrayal coming from some of the Democratic leadership, because again, like, Joe Biden was just here in Detroit recently. I not the one that I went to. I went to the NAACP Freedom Fund dinner, but he was just here recently. And y'all saw, For anybody who saw that, y'all saw with them folks here in Detroit, the folks on the ground, the voters were saying to Joe Biden, don't you quit. We got your back. The people were behind Joe Biden. Now, like with the polls and shit like that, like I said, like a lot of times, like they'll extrapolate from 600 folks. They'll extrapolate the polls from like 1,000 people. And I'm not one to say that the polls are inaccurate. Oftentimes those polls are accurate. I'm not one to say that the polls are inaccurate. With Hillary Clinton, people kept saying, well, you know, the polls are saying this, but then this happened. But you also, then you look at like, so people voted the way they said they were going to vote in those polls. She won the popular vote by over, 3 million or something like that. She won the poll, like she won the votes, but the electoral college is something entirely different from what the people want. The people are telling you they want one thing, and the electoral college system is telling you, no, something else has got to happen. Right? So, like, I'm not going to say that the polls are inaccurate. I will say, as someone who's been polled, that those pollsters do have a hard time connecting with people because folks ain't answering their phone for people that they don't know. I got a Google Pixel Fold right now. If somebody's calling my phone right now and I don't know who that number is, I will send that shit to my call screener and see what the fuck they saying. Hey, why are you calling me right now? State your business. And 9 times out of 10, motherfuckers hang up. And then when they hang up, I just block that number from ever calling me again. Because if you got business with me, you would talk to my call screener or you would leave me a voicemail. Oftentimes they don't do that. So when you don't do that, you ain't got no business with me. Go ahead and block that number. All right. But it's been a while. It's been a wild day. It's been a wild 3 weeks. Because again, like I said, I feel as though these last 3 weeks have been manufactured, so to speak. Like again, I am not one to say and deny that Joe Biden had a terrible debate. Terrible. I was like, this ain't good. Right? I saw that. Anybody with eyes saw that. But to suggest that that man needed to get the hell up out of the race because of that debate, and to suggest that like this man is incapable of holding on to the of operating as president in a job that we've seen the results of his presidency, where there's record unemployment or record low unemployment, so to speak. Where at one point when they had the child tax credits, that they had eradicated child poverty by 50%. Well, we are starting to see more infrastructure projects happen. Like they got the infrastructure project bill passed. Donald Trump was talking about infrastructure week his entire presidency and didn't do a goddamn thing for it. I'm seeing projects happening in and around the Detroit area all because of that. Now, I'm not sure what it is in your area, but I'm seeing it. One of the things I think he should have took from Donald Trump was putting his name on this shit, because so many folks think that they got those checks on behalf of Donald Trump when really it was on behalf of the federal government, the Congress that was controlled by Democrats. Donald Trump actually held those checks up so he can put his fucking name on them. Right? That's what he should have took from that. But yeah, man, like shit. We're in uncharted waters, man. This has never happened before. And I would hope sincerely that people who were saying that, you know, they were concerned about Joe Biden being too old to hold the office. Okay, so Kamala Harris is about 30 years younger than Joe Biden. Now, okay, so now what? Now what? What's going to be your excuse now? Because that's now taken away from you. Right? So you got that going on. We got some comments here. Let's see. Adam in the chat room, he says the debate and the immediate press spooked the top Democratic brass and they overcompensated. They got too deep, in my opinion. Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. They it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, so to speak, right? Because it's like, okay, Joe Biden had a terrible debate performance. Granted, given, no arguments there. But then comes the cause of, well, is Joe Biden capable of being of prosecuting the case against Donald Trump? It's like, Okay, are we forgetting that Donald Trump also had a terrible, like, we forgot completely. Like, it became more so about Joe Biden being old than about all the lies that Donald Trump told in that debate. The press attention about Joe Biden's age just squashed any sort of like real conversation about, this motherfucker Donald Trump didn't actually answer a single fucking question directly. Also, he was lying his ass off the entire time. And so I think to some degree, CNN in particular, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, I think to some degree, they took offense to the idea because many people were talking about how, they did no fucking fact checking. They let these motherfuckers go out there and just say whatever, no matter what. And they didn't fact check this dude at all. And they were catching heat for it. And they took offense to the fact that people were like, man, why the fuck y'all just let that shit stand like that? Right? So when now they're taking heat, hey, we got to deflect this somewhere, man. We ain't taking heat for this shit. And the things that are funny, though, about the whole thing about Trump being a liar is that everybody knows he's full of shit. My entire life, Donald Trump has been full of shit. My entire life. The man ain't never been honest about nothing. About nothing. My entire fucking life, he's been a lying sack of shit. Right? And so, like, I get people's frustration with the media when it came to that debate, but also, like, man, like, come on, y'all. Like, even now, the idea that Donald Trump is more vigorous than Joe Biden, and Donald Trump is only 3 years younger than Joe Biden. Only 3 years. I think Donald Trump's like 78 years old. So even if he were to win, he would be the oldest president ever elected to the office. The oldest one. So I guess now, with making Kamala the nominee against Donald Trump, that now, they take that off of the table. We'll see how well that works out. But I got a couple things I wanted to show you guys here real quick. So let me do this here because hold on, this isn't it. I want to read the statement from. No, this isn't it. Okay, so here's a statement from Donald Trump on his Live Social, his website Live Social, because there was talk about whether or not he would now debate Kamala Harris, right? Because they had already negotiated 2 debates between Trump and Biden before the election. Now Donald Trump's acting like a scared little bitch, and he's trying to pull out of the debate. So let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with me here. Hold on just a second while I get my shit together here. All right, let's do this. Boom, boom, boom. All right, here we go. So here's his statement. It says, "My debate with crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States." He's always projecting, was slated to be broadcast on fake news ABC, the home of George Slapadopoulos, sometime in September. Now that Joe has, not surprisingly, has quit the race, I think the debate with whomever the radical left Democrats choose should be held on Fox News rather than the very biased ABC. Thank you. Now, let's keep in mind. You had already negotiated to have the debate aired on ABC. You had already called CNN fake news. You had the debate on CNN. They didn't even fact check you. All Donald Trump is projecting right now is fear. Right? Fear. He doesn't want to go against that woman in a debate. He knows she'll cook his ass. She's a former prosecutor. Y'all saw how she was like really getting into their asses on like those Supreme Court nominees back when she was in the U.S. Senate. She was on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Y'all saw how she was getting in their asses. Not even just them, but like other government officials within the Trump administration. She was giving them no fucking quarter. They don't want it with Kamala Harris in that way. Donald Trump can't talk to Kamala Harris in that way and not get cooked. That's not to say that because Hillary Clinton cooked him in those other debates. Again, that was an electoral college issue. But he's not a great debater. He can't even answer a fucking question straight. He just lies all the fucking time. But he's scared. He's running fucking scared, man. That's the truth of it. That's really the truth of it. Yeah, and pull that down there though. But yeah, so you got that going on. But he's also, I think, did he make another statement? Let me see if I pull this up. I think he made another statement. Yeah, he did. So let me go ahead and pull this up so you guys can see this as well. Let's do this here. All right, here we go. So we get the statement here. It says, so we are forced to spend time and money on fighting crooked Joe Biden. He posed badly after having a terrible debate and quits the race. Now we have to start all over again. No, you don't. She was already on the ballot, bro. She was already there. Shouldn't the Republican Party be reimbursed for fraud in that everybody around Joe, including his doctors and the fake news media, knew he was not capable of running for or being president? Just asking. No, you're not getting reimbursed for shit, motherfucker. How about this? Here's what's funny. Donald Trump got shot at. He got shot at last week, and we haven't gotten any real. What do you call it? Reporting on. We haven't gotten any real reporting on what actually, like, how severe the shooting was. Because Donald Trump is out here telling motherfuckers he took a bullet. He took a bullet. To many of us, it looks like a graze. I thought he got liquid stitches. I've had real stitches before. I thought he might have got liquid stitches. And then they, like, his doctor, the dude that was his doctor while he was president, came out and said that he had, like, he didn't even get any sutures at all. He had no stitches and nothing. So you got grazed, bruh. I mean, lucky for you, but you got grazed, man. And he, like, there's this idea of him looking iconic and strong and all this other shit. I would look strong too if I didn't really fucking get shot. He was grazed. He wasn't really fucking shot. So again, like, the way media has been framing a lot of this has been frustrating as hell to anybody really, really paying attention. It's been really frustrating to kind of watch how this plays out, man. Let me stop. Let me pull this down and let me do this here. But yeah. So let's see. We got some more comments here. Adam Cook says Trump's mind is scrambled, but Trump is an actor, and all Trump has to do is recycle the old lies, and the press cannot make bank on old lies. Well, here's the thing, though. And this brings me back to what I was talking about last week when I had I played the clip of the dude on the show Flashpoint here in Detroit, where he talked about how the media was addicted to, you know, the spectacle that was Donald Trump, right? What came with Donald Trump, how they could how much money they were getting because how much attention that it was almost like that self-fulfilling thing where they would show Donald Trump at his rallies. Meanwhile, other people would have to pay for commercials in order to get the same level of screen time, right? And like, you go back and you look at what happened in the 2016 race, how much free advertising that Donald Trump was able to get because these cable news networks were carrying his rallies live. Anytime he went live, they were going straight to Donald Trump. Think about Morning Joe on MSNBC. He would call in the Morning Joe. He would call in the Fox and Friends. So he was getting all of this free airtime that he didn't have to pay for. And to some degree, especially considering who's running some of these media outlets now, and the attitude around what the news media is supposed to be. Before, years ago, man, the news media was always a loss leader when it came to revenue. And now so many of these news entities are in it for the money. That's why you get so much clickbait. That's why you get so many clickbaity titles. That's why everything is breaking news. That's why everything is a bombshell report. Think about how they try to reel you in. And there's a lot of people in independent media, they do the same shit in order to get you to click on the video. Bombshell report. Breaking news. The shit is like everything was breaking. It's been like I said last weekend, man. If you when it came to Donald Trump being shot at, everything it was breaking, and they didn't have anything to break. They had nothing new to tell us. But it was constant breaking. They even went into Monday, MSNBC Monday did not even air Morning Joe because they were in breaking news mode for the Trump assassination attempt that happened on Saturday. 2 days later, you're not even showing your regular morning programming because breaking news, despite you didn't have a new thing to fucking tell us. Not a one. So it's like, again, with Joe Biden, with Joe Biden coming out, man, like I said, to me personally, it feels as though this was a media-driven crisis. That when you go down to the average voter, the average Democratic voter, when you break it down to the brass tacks of it, those folks were behind Joe Biden. And they were willing to fight for Joe Biden. Unfortunately, with not only just the media, but some of the Democratic Democratic leadership and the donors, it became one of those things where it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Does Joe Biden's poll numbers start diving if donors are telling people publicly that they're not giving any money? Does Joe Biden's numbers start getting lower if Democratic leaders like Nancy Pelosi, like Adam Schiff, don't come out and not say, hey, we're supporting our candidate? Does it happen? It's like a feedback loop. The more negative information you put out, the more negative shit you're going to get back. And then it just feeds upon itself. That's what we are looking at right now. A negative feedback loop. So let's see. Dwayne. Then he says, NBC, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, and CBS are all owned by Trump donors. Possibly. I know NBC is owned by Comcast, ABC owned by Disney, CNN used to be owned by Ted Turner. I'm not sure. I think they are under Time Warner now. MSNBC, same thing with Comcast, and CBS. I'm not sure who's the ownership of CBS at the moment. I forget that ownership group, but I wouldn't doubt it. Let's see. He also says the Young Turks. Says the Young Turks are notorious for that in the oh, absolutely. Like y'all see how when was that Cenk Uygur was talking about he was running for president, and he's been one of those people talking about Joe Biden being too old and everything else. Meanwhile, he's running for president knowing damn well he couldn't win because he's ineligible because he's not a natural born American citizen, wasting everybody's fucking time. Right? Now I know there's some people who are some pretty decent folk who are they broadcast out of the Young Turks, but personally, I just kind of don't really fuck with the Young Turks because of that. Man. I know they were real big Bernie Sanders supporters, and and that's not to say that there's anything wrong with being a Bernie Sanders supporters, but we also remember how those Bernie Sanders supporters, some of them were so butthurt that their candidate lost that some of them went over and they voted for Donald Trump. And they're partly responsible for some of the bullshit that that is happening right now. Because if they had stayed in the camp, we wouldn't have the Supreme Court that we have right now. We wouldn't have a Supreme Court that is saying the president is immune from anything he does in an official act. We wouldn't have a Supreme Court saying that women's right to their bodily autonomy is not their right anymore, and that it's up to the states in order to give them that right. We wouldn't have that sort of shit. We wouldn't have affirmative action in college admissions being taken away. We wouldn't have that. So the Young Turks, although I'm sure they wouldn't take responsibility for it, they're very much responsible for some of the shit that's happened, because some of the rhetoric that they put out has kind of contributed to the idea that, well, we could, even somebody like Mark Lamont Hill, with his, he's a Green Party guy, and I guess like he's still true to it. Some of these other motherfuckers don't even act like they true to it. But like the idea that like, yo, we could suffer through Donald Trump and it'll be so bad that like people will get the message, like, is that what you got from that? Because people saw all the bullshit that happened with Donald Trump as president in 2016 to 2020, and you got some of them like, hey man, give me another helping of that shit. And some of that is media driven for them too. The type of media that they choose to consume. The constant drip of conspiracy theory. The fact that you can't go to a single source now and just look at that and like, yo, at least they're keeping the shit straight down the middle. There's very few people now. There's very few sources now. Like, you really gotta like, there are now services now where you can figure out like, hey man, am I reading this too far to the right, or am I reading this too far to the left? Am I reading this right down the middle? I think it was at Ground News, right? There's a whole service now to kind of let you know how far down the rabbit hole your ass might be going if you read this particular, if you're a purveyor of this particular content, if you frequent this website, if you watch this news article, this news story. It used to, like, and the other part about this is that we're starting to see just how unsavvy, unmedia literate so many around us are. That's the thing. Take, for example, AI. You got AI, you got deep fakes. One of the things I thought was very interesting is that like Donald Trump is like, and people around Donald Trump coming up with AI images of Donald Trump around black people. As if Donald Trump is really going to the hood and sitting on porches filled with niggas and like being comfortable in that environment. Donald Trump was just here in Detroit not too long ago with a church in the hood, and he filled that church with white people. He's not comfortable around black people. But they want them to have the idea that, and the reason why I'm talking about the AI portion of it is that like I've seen videos of things, and people, oh my God, shout out to those quints that are 100 years old and they still alive. That's beautiful. And they don't see the fucked up fingers and, the eye that's out of the socket and the arm that shouldn't be really able to bend that way. They haven't really put that together, There's so many people who are fooled by shit like that. So many. So many. So we got that to contend with. On top of the misinformation and disinformation that is being pumped, not only from, Republican operatives, but like from overseas as well. Like, y'all think this stuff that Russia was doing in 2016 stopped? No, absolutely not. The bots are still out there botting. Y'all think China isn't, to some degree, wanting to sow some chaos in the American electoral process? No, they probably got a little toehold in that too. So we have to be vigilant in not only just the media that we consume, whether it be like the mainstream media, ABC, CBS, CNN, NBC, Fox News, whatever news channel or whatever, but also in our social media, who we choose to follow, what outlets on YouTube that we choose to listen to, how much of it is driven by how much money they can make off of the clicks, and how much of it is driven on like, this is just what the fuck these people really think, and this is the information that they have, and they're giving it to me with no fucking chaser. We got to be real vigilant about that. Straight up. We got a comment here. Rick Rude Studios. He says, are you concerned about the national media deeming Kamala the angry black woman sublimely? I mean, truthfully speaking, when it comes to Kamala, I think that she's already behind the eight ball as far as being a black woman. So if she shows any level of like real conviction, you will have some people who will do that. I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be something that like the media drives, but I do think that there are some people who, like, for, you know, just lack of there not being around black people enough, who are not necessarily aware of how we emote and how we carry ourselves sometimes, where that could be an issue, right? So like just based on her being black and being a woman, she's already a double minority. We already saw how they treated the white woman, right? In Hillary Clinton. They had been demonizing Hillary Clinton since like when her husband was president. So like there was a years long effort to demonize who Hillary Clinton was. They didn't think that she was sufficiently submissive enough as a first lady when she was when Bill Clinton was president. So when she's out here being senator in the state of New York, when she's out here being Secretary of State in the Obama administration, and now she's out here trying to be president of the United States, who the fuck does this woman think she is? So Kamala Harris is going to have some issues just based on the fact that she's a woman, but also because she's a black woman. So, you know, I think it's incumbent upon us, especially those of us with platforms and with voices, to push back on that. It's incumbent upon us to push back on that. We got another comment here. Adam, he's got something to say. What you got, huh? See, honestly, I'm surprised that we have not seen more deep fake junk already in this election cycle, probably imminent. Yeah. I think it's going to be. I think we'll see a little bit more of it as we get closer to the real election. And the reason why I say that is because Donald Trump and his campaign weren't campaigning against Kamala. They got to find a whole different way to fight now, because they can't use the Joe Biden is old anymore, because Kamala Harris isn't as old as Joe Biden is. So now they got to figure out, and they got to turbocharge how they disseminate these messages. And one of the ways to do that is to get on there and make a deep fake. It doesn't cost you a whole lot of money. You really ain't got to pay nobody really to do it. And you know, to some of the people who are not media and, you know, internet savvy, they will believe it. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw more of it the closer we get to the general election. Dwayne says, Ice Cube is out here convincing black men to hold their votes. Meanwhile, he's cozying up to Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, RFK Jr., and the Qatari government. Yeah, man, fuck Ice Cube. I told y'all I've been off Ice Cube for a little while now. Ice Cube been out here playing them away games. So fuck Ice Cube. Like, straight up. I ain't been listening to Ice Cube on anything politically for a long time now. Ice Cube is for Ice Cube. And for anybody who believes differently, the man is showing you how often he don't give a fuck about you and the people that you love. He's about him and what can make him more money. So yeah, fuck Ice Cube. Been off of that. Yeah, let's see. I got some more stuff here though. Yeah. So another thing I kind of wanted to talk about. Speaking about black men and how they deal with speaking about black men and how they've been dealing with Donald Trump and the Trump administration. So y'all know the Republican National Convention was this past week, and Donald Trump had a couple black guys who were on his short list for his vice presidency, right? And one of those dudes was Tim Scott. Tim Scott was one of the choices, and Tim Scott was out here really debasing himself, man. I really wonder if that white lady who he said was now his girlfriend and fiance, I wonder if she still has a job as his beard, only because he was not chosen for vice president. But here's Tim Scott, like really like laying it on thick with Donald Trump as he tried to get that vice presidential nod. Check this out.
And then we do go to South Carolina, where we've done really well, where I've done well. We have a great governor and lieutenant governor and great everything, because almost every one of them have endorsed me. 2 great senators, which is hard. I mean, did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
Now, here's what's funny about that. In that very moment, Donald Trump is telling everybody just how spineless this motherfucker is, right? The reason your ass is even in the Senate is because of Nikki Haley. And here you are, like stabbing Nikki Haley in the back on behalf of me. On behalf of me, you must really hate her. Like, right? He's calling him a spineless son of a bitch to his face. It's awkward as hell, man. It's awkward as hell.
Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician. That's why he's a great politician.
Now he says, "I just love you," and that was it's a bit weird, right? That was a bit weird, but we did get audio from the Scott home when it was found out that he was not going to be the nominee, right? So they decided they were going to go in a different direction, and I'm just saying it didn't really go down great at the home of Tim Scott when he found out he wasn't the nominee, and we got video of this. So let me pull this up so you guys can see, because yeah, man, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. So let me do this here. Let's do this here. Bam. But yeah, man, here we go.
Because I still love you.
See? That's Tim Scott, man, when he got the word. So, prayers for Tim Scott and his family as they deal with this disappointing decision on their behalf, man. Got that going on. But there was another guy. There was another dude, Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds was out here, and he was talking kind of crazy when it came to trying to get that vice presidential nod, right? And so he was catching flack. Like, Byron Donalds was out here catching flack because he was saying some shit that most black people would be like, nigga, like, first of all, they'd be like, nigga, what? But he was out here just saying this shit, crazily, man. And I don't know, like, what they be paying these niggas to say this sort of stuff, but he was out here saying it. And so we get this here. Let me pull this up. We get this here from MSNBC, because they had found him up in Philadelphia, I think it was, talking a little reckless. And this is what Byron Donalds was saying right before this is when he was on the short list. And he thought he had a shot at being the vice president of Donald Trump's cabinet or whatever. But check out what Byron Donalds was out here saying in public.
During Jim Crow, the black family was together.
That's right.
During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people always have been conservative-minded, but more black people voted conservatively. And then H.E.W., Lyndon Johnson, and then you go down that road, and now we are where we are.
Yeah, he said that. Don't make a whole lot of sense, but he damn sure said that. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely motherfucking ridiculous, but he said that. Now, we also found out, got a camera in front of his face. They got a camera in front of his face when he found out that he was not going to be chosen as vice presidential nominee for the Republican Party. And let me pull this up so you guys can check this out because, yeah, man, he was disappointed too. He was disappointed too. So check this out, y'all. Here we go.
I don't know what went into that process.
We getting some buffering. See, I think Byron Donalds heard we was talking shit about him, and he got my internet cut off or some shit. Let's refresh this one. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's see.
I don't know what went into that process.
He met the criteria. He said, I met the criteria, but I wasn't selected. As this shit buffers on me. That's Comcast, y'all ain't shit. Comcast, y'all ain't shit. See, I knew I shouldn't have mentioned them when we was talking about who the Trump donators were, man. Now they out here fucking with the broadcast. They fucking with the broadcast, but nah, man, that's what happened. Byron Donalds was not chosen for vice president because Donald Trump went with J.D. Vance because he liked the way J.D. Vance looked on TV. He liked the way he looked. That's crazy. Not crazy, but crazy still. Yeah, man. So we got that going on. Let me get out of that. But now, in all seriousness, though, as I start getting ready to wrap this shit up, I would hope that the people who say that they were not enthused about the prospect of voting for Joe Biden simply because he was 81 years old, I will hope that now that excuse has been taken away from you, that you don't then come up with another excuse to not vote for the Democratic ticket. I would hope that this nation recognize the mistake that they made in not voting for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and that in the 8 years since, we've learned that it's been past time for a woman to be president of the United States. I would hope that those of you who bought into some of the misinformation and disinformation about Kamala Harris back in 2016, back in 2020, have had time to actually look into her record and not look at her as the quote unquote cop, as opposed to what she did, not only as a prosecutor, but as a senator, but as an attorney general in the state of California. I would hope you really dove into what her record really represents. And also, I would hope that we don't fall off in the level of enthusiasm we're going to need in order to pull this election out. Part of the reason why we were able to get Donald Trump out of office was because there was a record amount of turnout in 2020. 81 million people voted for Joe Biden. The most ever. More than Barack Obama even got. I would hope that we turn out in those numbers because we're going to need them. Republicans are out here thinking that Donald Trump is divinely protected and divinely anointed to be the president of the United States. They're out here as if that dude is the savior of this nation. A nation that he's already put under threat. So I would hope, like I said, going forward, that we would we recognize the threat that's in front of us, and that we also turn out in ways that recognizes the threat that's in front of us. Because this is it. I think we on the series finale of this shit here, man. This is how people was talking about motherfucking Game of Thrones and Daenerys and how it turned to shit towards the end. Man, I feel like, if this is the season finale of Game of Thrones, and if you had like an alternative ending, well, damn it, we need to come up with the alternative ending. Threw that shit in there right now and vote for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris 2024, goddamn it. Real talk. But yo, man, I'm about to get on up out of here, man. I've been talking for a little bit. But before we get out of here, I do have to remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and let your voice be heard. Go ahead and hit up that hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages. Of course, those messages will be played here and responded to here live on the show. You can also hit me up on Threads and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead, follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. Also, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Spotify. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get read here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who does that. Doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast. Also, if you're watching us via YouTube, man, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Spann Report Podcast Network, and leave us a thumbs up on the videos. Comment on the videos on YouTube, man. We will read those comments here on the show, man. We really appreciate everybody who contributes to the conversation, and we appreciate everybody who does it, man. Real talk. Also, go to our website when we get that boy back up and running, because I'm still working on it. But www.thespannreport.com. You will be able to go there, watch replays of the show, vote in polls. We set it up to where like you can just have like groups and have chats and the whole thing where like associated with the shows, man. So again, we're really not trying to be so much tied into what's going on with Facebook, because you're at the mercy of Facebook, with Twitter, because you're at the mercy of Twitter, Instagram and Threads, you're at the mercy of them folks. So like if we can have our own space, we really would like to have our own space. So where we're not should a nigga get a strike on something like that and they suspend me for whatever the fuck reason because I'm telling the truth about something that they get a nigga out the paint, right? So we really want to have our own spaces now, and like in a time like now, man, we really gonna need our own spaces, man. Real talk. But I am about to get on up out of here. I appreciate everybody in the chat room, and I appreciate everybody who's gonna be listening to this show later. But I will talk to you guys again soon. Until next time, fam. Peace.